Okay, continuing on with 13. Approximate the zeros of the function round to the nearest 10. So there are a few ways that we can do this. You may try to complete the square. You may try the quadratic formula. The very first thing you should try is factoring. However, looking at all three of these, I can tell that there will not be a way to factor these so nicely. So let's use the quadratic formula, and I'll write that right here. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so definitely want to know that for this exam. In this case, a is 1, b is negative 3, and c is equal to 1. So let me just go ahead and plug that in. I get a positive 3 because there was supposed to be a negative, but then when I put a negative, it becomes positive. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, which will be 9, minus 4 times 1 times 1. And then on the bottom, I'll get 2a, or 2 times 1. Okay, let me simplify this up a bit. 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 4 over 2. And maybe some of these steps that I'm simplifying you could do in like a combined simplifying step, but here I get 3 plus or minus the square root of 5 all over 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve. So if I was using the plus sign, I would get 3 plus this square root of 5, divide that by 2, and how did I say to round it? To the nearest 10th. So it was approximately 2.61 8, and then it keeps going. However, this will be rounded to just 10th wise 2.6 because I'm looking at these two and then this one kind of. Let's do the minus version, and I get 3 minus, so by the way, this means maybe I'll just, for this problem I will show you, when I'm doing the plus version, I'm doing 3 plus the square root of 5 over 2. The one down below will be 3 minus the square root of 5 over 2. So move this back a little bit. Okay, so let's see. 3 minus square root of 5 divided by 2, and I get 0.3819, and this is approximately 0.4. So these are my two answers. Okay, so we will need a scientific calculator for this one. Let's check out number 14. Again, I can't use the factoring technique. You could use the completing the square and then solve using square roots. However, I'm going to go ahead and use the quadratic formula again. A is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 1, c is equal to negative 3. So let's see, this will be 1 plus or minus square root of 1 minus 4 times 1 times negative 3 all over 2. I have 1 plus or minus 1 plus 12 over 2, which is 1 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. So let's figure out the plus version and the negative version. So the plus would be 1 plus the square root of 13 over 2, and the minus version would be minus square root of 13 over 2. 1 plus the square root of 13 divided by 2 is approximately, and I'm going to go ahead and round this, it will be 2.3, and 1 minus the square root of 13 divided by 2 will be negative 1.3. So these are my two roots. And now, oftentimes we could just leave it into the plus or minus version that we have like right here. However, this is more convenient if I'm trying to actually graph. And then 15. One more, I'll just switch up the colors. I have A equals negative 1, B equals negative 8, C equals negative 13. So I'm going to plug that in, and every time here I've been getting my B is negative, so this is making that first B value positive in the equation. Plus or minus B squared, which is 64, minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 13. All over negative 2. Let's simplify this up a bit. Plus or minus 64. This will stay a minus, and I have to do 4 times 13. So this will be minus 52. All over negative 2. And simplify this a bit more. 8 plus or minus the square root of 12. If this was a problem where you didn't have to find the decimal answer, I would want you to simplify that square root of 12. However, in this case, it's just easier to plug it in since we're looking for a decimal answer. Let me also make a little bit more room. Okay, my positive version and my negative version. 8 plus the square root of 12 divided by a negative 2 is approximately negative 5.7, and this one here is a negative, well, let's see, 8 minus the square root of 12 divided by negative 2, and I get approximately negative 2.3. Okay, let's check out 16, 17, and 18. Write in vertex form by completing the square. And then we want to state the vertex and solve. All right, so